Greetings everyone, Slizzle466 here, and in today's video we're looking at some of the best decks to climb to Legend with for the month of March 2020. These are ordered in from best to worst deck, and again this is based on my opinion and my experience on the Americas or NA Wild Ladder. So looking at the best deck in the format, I think it's Cube Warlock. Warlock just has so many ridiculous tools. It's got Plague of Flames for removal, it's got Defile for removal, it's got Dark Skies for removal, it's got Lord Godfrey for removal. If that's not enough, you've also got Voidcaller, which lets you cheat out big demons such as Doomguard, Mal'Ganis, and Voidlord, and then you can play a cube on those, maybe play a Plague of Flames to pop your cube, even do a Faceless Manipulator to get another cube. It's just a really powerful deck and very difficult to deal with in the current meta. There are also some bad luck Albatross in here to help you battle some of the Reno decks that you might be facing. If Warlock is not your thing and you want something a bit more aggressive, the second deck that I recommend is Memnarch's Even Shaman. This specific build is built to counter mages and warlocks. So if you're finding that you're losing in the mirror a lot, you might be losing to pirate warriors, odd paladins, things like that. You might want to swap out the Sea Giant, the Stormbringer, and the Flame Wreath Faceless, and put in some zaps, put in some Thunderheads. At number 3, we have one of 3 mage decks in a row here. I honestly think that just straight up Quest Mage is the best mage deck. Even though it's weaker to aggro than Reno Mage, it's just really fast, really obnoxious, and really difficult for your opponent to play around with. One tech that you might want to try out is to take out the Archmage Vargoth, put in a 4th giant. Sometimes you don't actually need that 3rd turn to get lethal. The next mage deck is Reno Quest Mage. I don't think this is the most powerful deck in the meta, but it's definitely being heavily targeted. This is SrAwA's list that I believe hit EU at number 1 Legend. And it's the Reno Dragon Quest Mage that we've learned to love or loathe, depending on your side of the story. Some cards that we haven't seen before. We've got the Fire Tree Witch Doctor. So if you're holding a dragon, discover a spell. Considering there are dragons in the deck and you want to get random spells that didn't start in your deck, this is a nice little addition. You've also got Zola the Gorgon in here. This is a little bit of greed, but this lets you get maybe an extra giant, an extra Reno Jackson if you need it. Lots of different combinations of cards you can use with Zola if you need to do so. You've also got Ziliax as an anti-aggro tech. Dragoncaster is an interesting one. 6 mana 4/4 Battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, your next spell this turn costs 0. So this might allow you to play a clunky spell that you discovered. Maybe it's a Luna's Pocket Galaxy for 7. Maybe it's a Pyroblast. Maybe it's a 10 mana Kazakus Potion. But this is a nice little tech into the list. Moving on to number 5, we have Slate's Secret Mage. There's nothing particularly special about this list. It's pretty solid. Some players are cutting the ice block for the Potion of Polymorph, but otherwise, just stick with this build. It'll do the job. Moving on to tier 2. We've got Ghost Dog's Odd Paladin. This I honestly think is the best build of Odd Paladin in the meta. It's a build that I very quickly hit Legend with in February. You're looking at the tech, you've got your Owl to deal with your obnoxious mechs from a Mech Paladin or your Void Lords from a Warlock. You've got a Chief Inspector to help deal with the mages. This one could be subbed out for, say, a Faceless Corruptor if you're not queuing into too many mages. And for those who aren't used to playing Odd Paladin with Righteous Cause, just make sure you always keep this in the mulligan. Even if you play it on turn 1, it's very powerful to be able to go, hero power onto muster for battle into 5 2/2s on your board. You'll notice that I've placed Odd Paladin above Mech, and this is simply because there's so much even Shaman in the meta with Devolve. I do think Odd Paladin's in a better spot. But Mech Paladin is also still really good. This is a list that Darkseeker shared on Twitter. Again, Mech Paladin is pretty much optimized. There's nothing particularly special about it. The only thing to really remember is the mulligan. Just make sure you're keeping Christology, Smuggler's Run, Galvanizer, Grime Street Outfitter, Mech Warper, and if you're up against a control deck, keep Flying Machine, because more often than not, they can't deal with it. Next up, we have Evil Devil's Jade Druid. This is a list that he has been playing for a couple of months now. So it's a Jade Druid. There isn't that too much Jade in it. There are the 2 Jade Idols and the 2 Jade Blossoms. But you've got some extra high roll greed in the deck in the form of Ysera Unleashed. Throw 7 Dream Portals in your deck that are going to give you random dragons when you draw them. And King Ferris, for each spell in your hand, summon a random minion of the same cost. And because of the King Ferris, that's why you're seeing the double Ultimate Infestation, the double Overflow. Just some real greed to help you steal a couple wins. There was a tech that was discovered on the China server, and it was also popularized on EU, where you take out one of the ritualists and you put in Floop's Glorious Gloop. And a really nice little combo with Floop is you can play the Floop and then play a Poison Seeds and get a whole bunch of mana. And it's quite powerful. Moving on to Darkest Hour Warlock. This was a list that did very well on the China server. Again, it's pretty much the Darkest Hour we've learned to live with. Let's just put it there. Some notable cards here. You've got your Twisted Knowledge, discover 2 Warlock cards. It's a cute little play. A lot of the time, especially if you have your combo in hand, you may have nothing to do on turn 2. You don't want to tap, so you play Twisted Knowledge. Also, it's kind of like a primordial glyph where your opponent really can't play around what you get. And discovering them is nice. There's a Kel'thuzad. Again, so some people like Kel'thuzad, some people like using Dr. Morrigan. It's really up to you. Dr. Morrigan is better if you're queuing into a lot of Reno decks playing Brawl. But otherwise, just flip a coin, you'll do okay. We've got 2 Warlock decks to finish off Tier 2. Memnarch has another list that he's hit #1 legend with. This is his take of Galakrond Warrior. I really like this list. It's basically just, early game Pirate Warrior with good mid-range minions and a top end. There's no funny business with Albatross or bombs. It's just a good value tempo deck. Some cards to note here that are very nice in the list. Battle Rage. This is a card that the standard players are using in their Galakrond lists. I think it fits very nicely in this list as well, especially if you combo it with Awaken, you can draw a whole bunch of cards. You've also got Kazan Mystic to help deal with mages. Now, I prefer the Kazan Mystic here over the Eater of Secrets because keep in mind, when you queue into not a mage, or not a deck running secrets, and you play a 4-mana 2/4 Eater of Secrets is terrible. A 4-mana 4/3 is not great, but it's still a very aggressively statted minion, which makes sense for this deck. You've also got Alexstrasza's Champion in here to give you some charge burst at the beginning of the game, and just to have some extra dragons in here, in addition to Scion of Ruin, you've got the big ol' Whelp, which also helps you draw a card. And the last Tier 2 deck to round it off is Pirate Warrior. This is a list that's been around for ages. Some notes about this list. It's running Wrench Calibers to counter Reno decks. If you're queuing into more aggro, swap them out for Death Spite to do a lot better. The Spellbreaker is in here for the Mech Paladins and the Warlocks. Moving on to Tier 3, we have Burnt's Togwaggle Druid. Now again, Burnt is a player on the Americas server, so this list is tuned for that server, and that's why you see the North Sea Kraken and the Star Aligner in here. You really need these in an aggressive meta like on the NA server, so if you're not playing on the NA server, you can play a more slower version, but otherwise I'm pretty confident you want to stick with this one. And one thing I found with Druid decks is as long as you're running Oaken Summons, Archmage Vargoth, and a Ritualist, you're in a pretty good spot. Our first priest deck to look at is Concerned Mom's Big Priest. This list is a little bit old, but it's Big Priest. There's not much to look at here. Instead of running Shadow Word Pain, we're running Penance, especially because the meta is really sped up and mages are so crazy with their burst. You sometimes just need that extra heal off the Penance. You got Breath of the Infinite, although there are no dragons in the deck. Just being able to get that damage in is very helpful. As for the minions, it's a little light on the minions. You've got your Archmage Vargoth, you've got your Ziliax, you've got your Lich King, your Obsidian Statue, and your Yasharj. So basically, we have all the minions that are going to either taunt up or give us heal, and that's mainly to deal with Mage, one of the most powerful classes in the current meta. The last warrior list we're going to look at is Goku's Odd Warrior. Goku is an excellent player. He also does very well frequently with Odd Warrior. He was playing this to counter mages, just trying to kind of out-armor them, make it difficult for them to do their 3-turn OTK combo. Again, not much has changed in Odd Warrior over the months, but one thing I do want to note is the Bran and the Colette Oracles are great to not only just mill your opponent, but also win in fatigue. And the Azalina Soul Thief is also really good. A lot of the time, see with a Togwaggle Druid, if you're a good Reno Quest Mage player, you will not complete your quest until they have done their Togwaggle combo. Reno Quest Mages are just going to go off against you, usually as an Odd Warrior. They've got the Time Warp in their hand, you then Azalina, and now you have a Time Warp. But again, you don't have the Aviana like Togwaggle Druid, so it's not quite as good. But if you want to beat up aggro, this is the way you do it. Just dodge Mecha'thun decks. The one and only Hunter list in this video is Mech Hunter. It's very aggressive. This specific list is running Chop Shop Copter, which I'm a big fan of. Just getting you horrendous amounts of value. I kind of underrated this card. It's actually really good. And also Missile Launcher is a nice little addition. One thing to keep in mind with Missile Launcher is it deals 1 damage to all other characters. If you slap a Venomizer onto it, those missiles are now poisonous and destroy all the minions on the board. Quite powerful. Looking at our final priest deck, Combo Priest by Corbett. This is a list that I featured in the past. It's a dragon combo priest. Pretty straightforward. The Cleric of Scales is really nice, just giving you an option to get a spell from your deck in a similar fashion to Shadow Vision, so a little bit of redundancy there. Very, very aggressive, very heavy low end. Nice little tech card here is the Mind Flayer Courage. Lets you choose an enemy minion, and then when your 3-mana 3/3 dies, you get a copy of that enemy minion, which is quite nice. We round things out with 2 Warlock decks. First one to look at is Treachery Warlock by Yiling Sama. Yiling Sama is a streamer from China who specializes in this deck. This is not an easy deck to play. As you can see, I don't play it. I don't even own Prince Valinar. Maybe I'll craft it, we'll see. But I couldn't explain much to you about this deck other than it's all about disruption, make your opponent's hand go away, make your opponent's board go away with Doomsayer and Treachery, make crazy boards with Grim Patrons. It's a really fun, rewarding deck if you learn it properly, but if this is not your style of deck, maybe steer clear of it. And the last deck I want to look at, because I've only got 18 deck slots, is Reno Warlock. Now, this is actually a really interesting list. You'll notice that Reno Warlock is down the bottom of my list because I don't think it's very good. And because it's not very good, and a lot of players agree with this, the lists that we see come out are really crazy. So this is a mid-range Reno Warlock. Just scrolling through the list, got the Power Overwhelming in there, and the Leroy Jenkins Faceless Manipulator combo, Blast to the Past. Obviously, you're going to have to Emperor to get that combo to work, and it's pretty much useless against armor classes or, say, Ice Block, but it's still there. Galakrond Warrior to help deal with the Pirate Warriors and the Odd Paladins. Again, there's the Twisted Knowledge. You've got Gluttonous Ooze for weapons. This is very good against Mage, Anti-Aggro Tech, Anti-Mage Tech, Anti-Warlock Paladin, Mech Paladin Tech. Abyssal Summoner is kind of cute. Because you've got so many cards in your hand, you'll often get a very big 6 mana minion with Taunt. And otherwise just the good demons that Warlock runs. Now, one deck that I accidentally missed from this video that you probably won't miss too much is Odd Rogue. Odd Rogue, I would probably slot it in around here at the bottom of Tier 2, maybe into Tier 3. I'll include that code in the description below as well. As for the Tier 4 decks, basically Tier 4 is everything else. There's such a wide variety of decks you can play in Wild. You know, for example, if you really like Kingsbane Rogue, go and play Kingsbane Rogue. If you learn the deck properly, you can do really well. If you really like Reno Priest, play some Reno Priest. You could go to Hearthstone-decks.net, get a list, maybe refine it, play around a bit. But these are just my top decks that I like to play. All of the deck codes are in the description below, as well as a link to Hearthstone-decks.net if you need any additional decks. If you want to support the channel, you can click the sub button, click that bell, and until next time, hope to see you again.